Hi, I'm Jennifer from Shabby Fabrics. I have an amazing project for you today that you're going to want to make a lot of. It's the ultimate toddler bib. Now, I remember when my kids were toddlers, they were messy eaters. There was food everywhere. And the bibs that I found at the stores were these little things that really just didn't catch anything. They certainly weren't big enough to cover my baby. And it's really not even a baby, it's now a toddler. Look how cool these bibs are. They have a little bit of a place to catch things that your toddlers might drop. Their arms go right through the sleeves, and the thing I love best is they're reversible. And again, on this side, you have a different look, different combination of fabrics. And again, you have that little trough or area where food can fall into, and goodness knows, crackers and Cheerios and all the things our toddlers eat. So we think this makes a fantastic gift for a baby shower, mom-to-be, new mom. These are wonderful. Now, you can download the templates from the Shabby Fabrics homepage. The link is down below in the description. But I also want to let you know, because of course this is just ordinary paper you're going to print out and tape up. Because I know you're going to want to make lots and lots of these. As soon as you give one as a gift, people will be asking for more. We have a pattern available. It's full color pattern with full color photographs, step by step of this process. And we'll have the template for the toddler portion, which is quite large, 6 pieces of paper taped together. And for the pocket portion, that's 2 pages. So we have that in one big continuous piece and on heavier paper. So that way you're not having to print and tape it all together. That's an option. But again, if you want to just download that, it's available at Shabby Fabrics homepage, or click the link below. Consequently, these cute receiving blankets, that's a separate video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as our other social medias. We always have new projects coming out for you. We think this is one of the most practical ones we've come out with in a long time. And it's fat quarter friendly. I love that. Just go to the Shabby Fabrics homepage, click on fabrics, and you'll drop down to pre-cuts. And we have so many fat quarter sets. Your hardest thing will be choosing which ones, because there's such a beautiful array of fabrics to choose from. Today, we'll be using the Little Ones 2 flannel collection from Kimberbell Designs by Maywood Studio. We love our Maywood Studio partners. They print our fabric for Shabby Fabrics as well as a lot of our favorite designers like Kimberbell. 2 fat quarters. I chose one for the front, one for the back, and a coordinating fabric for the pocket. As you know, you'll get your 6 pages for your toddler bib. You'll tape those together, or if you'll be purchasing our patterns, that'll all be in one piece for you. You'll simply want to cut out around the lines of both the toddler bib and the pocket. I won't do that on camera. You don't need to see me cut out the pattern piece. And you will cut both of your layers of your front and your back of your toddler bib at the same time. So make sure, though, that you do layer your fabric so that the right side is down for that side and the side you want showing. So you'll basically have the wrong sides together. Place your template, which is of course already cut out, on pin and simply cut around. For the pocket, we did choose the same, it's the same fabric. So that's one pocket. Let me show you how that's going to look. So it looks like that's 2 pockets, but that's just one. In fact, that's what it looks like right here. And again, you could choose one fabric on one side and a different fabric on the other. So you get the idea. You'll be making 2 pockets, of course. Once you have your pockets put together, now this is really cool. We made just, I guess what I would call a generic, although who could really call that generic? How fun and cute that is. We made just a toddler bib to give, but let's say that you want to take it to the next level. We have something called shabby shapes. These are very precisely cut on a laser letters, and they come in small, medium, and large. 2 inches is the smallest, so if your toddler has a longer name, like say Madison, you would choose the smaller letters. Here I've got Chase. This is Casey's son, although Chase is certainly not a toddler anymore. But let's say that your toddler has a shorter name like Chase. You might choose the medium letters. But let's say you have a Madison, and then you would be wanting to go ahead and choose the smaller letters. Now these are prefused laser cut with a fusible webbing on the back. You simply peel this off, and at this step, if you're going to go ahead and personalize your pocket, this is the step in which you would do that. You would get your name laid out, iron it down, stitch around a blanket stitch, a satin stitch, whatever you'd want to do. This is the step where you would go ahead and personalize that pocket. But again, that's just an option. I think it does take it to the next level. That is so much fun to be able to do that. So you know that's now an option. Let's put that aside. I just wanted to mention it. And if you are going to do that, make sure you're doing that and sewing that down, of course, before you're sewing the pocket to the bib. All right, so you get the idea. Now, what we decided to do, once we cut this out and we cut our pockets out, we went ahead and we folded it wrong sides together, and we simply just sewed an eighth inch stitch right across the top. Consequently, with this particular project, it's fat quarter friendly, and you'll be using bias tape, and you'll be using the extra wide double fold tape, and this is 3 yards. You'll need 3 yards per bib. If you'll be buying our kits, everything will be nicely coordinated for you. Of course, we're using the coordinating bias tape, and you do want to choose some coordinating thread. Now, this is color 187 from Superior Threads. This is 100% cotton. If you're not sure, you may want to purchase the Masterpiece Color Card thread sets. This is live thread in here, and that way you can be matching the actual thread to your fabric, and that way you're ordering the right color. You get the idea. You're going to see stitches. You do want to choose a coordinating thread. Now let's put those pattern pieces aside. We went ahead and cut our bib out. We got our pocket pieces. We folded them wrong sides together. We sewed our tiny little 1/8 inch or even less stitch, and now we're simply going to position this in place, both on the front and on the back. I'm just going to flip that over like that, and I'm going to go ahead and just pin that all together. I definitely don't want that to move on me. Now I do want to make sure my pockets are lining up nicely. It looks like they are, one stacked up on top of another, and simply pin. And I'm going to pin kind of out here. And that's just because bias tape's going to be coming into this, and I don't want these pins interfering as I'm sewing around. I want this whole thing held together very well while we're applying the bias tape. Consequently, when I was doing this project, I learned something from Tammy, who is like the most wonderful person I have here in this video team that helps us get everything ready for video. And she pointed out to me that bias tape actually has kind of a right side. There's 2 different sides, and I want to show that to you because it's important with this particular project. First thing, unroll the whole thing. You're going to see why as we go along. So we're just going to unroll all of that bias tape versus kind of just unrolling a little bit as we go. And here's the part that Tammy pointed out to me that I want to show you. If you notice, and I want the overhead camera to see this, it's almost too difficult to see, but the bottom portion, this is what I call the bottom portion, comes out just a little bit wider than the upper portion. The part that's wider is the part that I want to be on the what I call bottom. So I'm going to start down over here because this is the part that's wider and this is slightly narrower. Starting at the armholes. So here's our armholes here. And this was cut already at kind of an angle. So I'm just going to cut that straight across. Love these scissors. These are the Kai scissors. I love those. We will simply sandwich that in. And this is where I love my larger Wonder Clips. If you watch the receiving blanket, I use the mini clips. I want a little more meat in this time. I want to hold that bias tape in place. So I'm going to be using the larger Wonder Clips. And I love how they now have them in a variety of colors in the same pack. I love colors. So, you know, in the beginning, Wonder Clips were all just the same color. And I know they definitely offer them that way, but I really like the multicolor pack just because I like color and lots of it. So let's clip this real well. And just because I don't want this dragging with me, I'm going to go ahead and I'm able to see, I want to show you what I'm going to do real quick. I'm able to see that that kind of just keeps curving in that direction. So I will go ahead just like that. And let's take this to the sewing machine. Now I'm going to sew probably a good 1/8 inch and trying to be consistent about that. Think about this though. Remember how I said the bias tape on the back is a little bit longer? If we know we're about 1/8 of an inch away, we know we're going to catch the bias tape on the back. So that's one of the reasons that you want to have that slightly wider portion on the back side where you can't see. So let's go, let me find some glasses so I stand a chance at actually seeing and doing this properly. And let's take this to our sewing machine. You don't need to back stitch. You can just start sewing. I'm going to move that first clip down out of the way here. Okie dokie. So here we have the first one done. And now I'll go ahead and do the opposite one. And then when I come back, we'll keep going on our toddler bib. Okay, so we have the one side done. So as you would expect, we'll go do the same thing with the other armhole. Now let's look though, let's make sure we don't have to switch our bias tape because we always want to make sure that wider portion is on the bottom. So let's have a look here. Okay, so the wider portion is up here. So sometimes you have to flip your bias tape from one end to the other to assure yourself that that wider portion's on the bottom. And again, if you need to trim that to accommodate the edge that you're at, you just trim it. Put that in position, clip it just like we did before, making sure that's completely fed into the channel of the bias tape. Clipping as we go, and then we'll stitch again. So when I come back, I'll have that side done and we'll go on to the next sides of the bib. The two armholes are now complete, and we'll grab our bias tape again, and we're going to start here. Now, let's double check our bias tape. Yep, that is the wider part. Move that aside. This is one of the most unique parts about this bib, so I want you to watch closely as this part's typical. You're gonna clip that in place, but once I start sewing it, how I go from here to joining up down here is the part that I want you to notice. So I'm gonna go even a slightly beyond. I want that whole edge enclosed. So even if I go a little beyond, I can always trim that later, and I will. Let's use those Wonder Clips. I love those Wonder Clips. I don't even really need those pins anymore. And there's definitely a time and a place for good pins, and that's most of quilting. But in projects like this, there's just the Wonder Clips are, well, wonderful, right? I guess that's why they call them Wonder Clips. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to put this for now kind of around my neck because I don't want to be stepping or tripping on it, and it keeps it with me and out of the way. So let's go to the sewing machine, and just like before, let me scoot this over so you can see what I'm doing. Just like before, we're stitching. The part coming up here is the part That is the coolest thing about this bib. About right here, I'm going to stop with my needle down, and I'm going to pivot this portion of the bib. This is the armhole we're going to create. We're going to pivot and feed into that bias tape right in our V, getting that really, really good in there. So those two fabrics are just laying next to each other. Do you see that? That's the armhole. Now, I'm just going to slowly keep feeding the bib in all the way around, and we'll come around. This part we'll just cut, I'll sew in real time, but we'll fast forward the video, and then when we get ready to join up the other armhole, we'll slow it down so you can see how I did that again. So here we go. I'm just going to work my way around, feeding it in. Okay, here we come again. About there, stop. Bring this arm up now. This is the other armhole. You just want to feed that in. So these are lying side by side, just like this. We just stop and open that up, and we're going to feed that in. And we're going all the way to that fold. Not overlapping. We don't want to overlap those two. They're just side by side. And let's continue. And then I'll just keep sewing all the way around to here, and we'll stop. That'll leave the scoop open. Don't go past that point. And now I'm just going to, I can see where that angle just kind of keeps going up. I'll keep continuing with that. And same with here. I can see how that is just coming here. So let's continue with that angle, trimming our threads. So the last portion to do, well, of course, we can take all of our pins out now. And you know what's neat, guys? I have not used a lot of bias tape, right? I'm a quilter. You don't use bias tape in quilting normally. And this is obviously not a quilt, but the point is that I've not used a lot of bias tape before, and I found this project really simple. So this is great for a beginner sewer. Don't think you have to be an experienced seamstress or know a whole bunch about sewing to do this. Nothing could be further from the truth. We need to put the bias tape on that scoop. So we're going to find the midpoint. And let's mark that with a wonder clip. And the reason for finding the midpoint on the bib itself and on the bias tape is primarily so that the ties are the same length. So if you get slightly off, it's really not that big of a deal, but I'd like to have the ties be the same exact length. So that's my midpoint, and that's my wider portion right there. So I'm going to start feeding this in. I might even mark that one. Just a slight mark. Although I don't really think we need to. And of course, friction pens come off with heat. So there's my midpoint. I'll just keep my eye on that place. Feed that in. We'll clip. Feed this in. Okay, so now we're ready to go. We will start here at the very end. You could, if you wanted to, tuck that little flap in and sew across there. But what we did is just tie a knot. We left that raw and tied a knot in the end, which we'll do. And they still wear like iron. But if you don't like that raw edge, you can, as I said, just simply open that up, tuck the flap down, stitch straight across, then go right sides together and keep going. But we just didn't find it necessary. And goodness knows these bibs are going to be washed again and again and again. So here we go. We'll trim those threads. Then, for the very last thing, is we just simply tie the knot and kind of push that knot toward the end. Pretty good. We're really squeezing down on that. And same here. You know, Tammy, who works here, was telling me that her daughter had bibs like this and gave her daughter some bibs, and Mom called and said, Mom, the only problem is I need like 12 more of these things, which isn't that, I love that. This is the ultimate bib. Now look at this. Look at this. Your baby, your toddler, has places for their arms. It's adorable. It's functional. It covers their clothes. And if they make a complete mess here, you wipe it all down, simply reverse it, and you get to do it all over again. Share this video with your friends. This is wonderful for small groups, and this makes wonderful charitable gifts as well. So I hope you liked learning how to make the ultimate toddler bib, and we'll see you next time.